Hello and good afternoon, everyone, for joining this Reimagine School Leadership virtual webinar series with us. I'm proud to say that today we are doing this session with eminent panelists from Pune and Pune schools, which will throw light on back to school as well as a bit on admissions process for Pune schools. So I'm very excited for this webinar. Let me just briefly welcome all the panelists and introduce them before we get into the discussion. First of all, my name is Vikram and I lead the UniApply business based in Gurgaon. For all viewers, UniApply is a school admission app which is transforming and digitizing school application and admission process. And it's a product of No Paper Forms, India's largest enrollment automation services provided by No Paper Forms. The topic for today's discussion, I'm sure it is in the mind of all the parents, largely from a point of view of they are waiting eagerly to send their kids back to school. And many of the schools have started welcoming students back on their campus. So we are going to discuss about back to school and decoding a bit of admission process for Pune schools. I have with me eminent and well-known panelists from very well-known and reputed schools in Pune, who will share their insights on the topic. And there are numerous aspects of transitioning back to school, which we will cover in this webinar in the next 45 minutes. I'm hopeful that this will help our audience to understand in deep what's going on at schools level with respect to welcoming back the students to school, as well as for those parents who are looking for admission in April 2022-23 session. They can also understand in deep that what schools are looking at and how they can apply to schools. So let me, without wasting time, introduce the panel members with me. We have Ms. Monica Chabda, the principal of Midcon International School, Pune. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining this webinar, and it would be very helpful for us to get your insights on this topic. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram. Thank you.
Sure. We have Mrs. Jayashree Venkat Raman Iyer, the principal of SNBP School in Rahatani, Pune. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining this webinar, and we are looking forward to discussing back to school as well as admission process for Pune schools. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be part of this. Thank you.
We have Dr. Mrudula Mahajan. Ma'am is the principal for Dr. D.Y. Patel Public School in Pune. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining. I know that you were in some emergency, ma'am, and I am hopeful that everything is fine and you could join this webinar.
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have Ms. Kajal Chatija. She is the Executive Director of Gayatri English Medium School from Pune. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining on this webinar and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, we have Dr. Anpurna Lili Bipinraj. She is the principal of the Lexicon School in Hadaspar. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining on this webinar, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, sir. Same here.
So let me just quickly get into the discussion and get some insights from the panelists with respect to what's happening on the ground when we talk about back to school. And what they have done in their respective school and as Pune as a city in large, what's happening on the ground. So let me just start with Monica, ma'am, with the first question, largely from a point of view to understand, ma'am, what is the situation in Pune and per se in your school in terms of how many students, what percentage of students are actually coming back to school and what percentage of students are in the hybrid mode currently? And what is your sense in terms of what is the guidance from the school?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vikram Shah, and thank you, UniApply, for giving me this opportunity and looking forward for a good brainstorming on this topic. We're talking about coming back to school. Yes, we all are very hopeful that very soon entire school comes offline, and because children are the soul of the school. Without students, the school looks so empty. One is that for sure, considering the learning gaps that the children have been facing since last 2 years because of this virtual online system or recently hybrid mode system that we have started, I would say that the best way to, disseminate education is offline for sure, keeping the advantages of virtual classrooms looped in. So thinking this, after we got the GR and also we started calling the students, and currently grade 5 onwards, my entire school is coming offline. We made it mandatory and we got consent also from the parents. So the percentage of strength on day-to-day basis is around 95%. So that's very encouraging for all of us, in fact. Grades 3 and 4, we still conducted on hybrid mode, because some students, some parents still do not have that conviction to send the children to school because vaccination and other aspects, some of them still have not returned back to Pune. So there are certain issues. And pre-primary to grade 2. So these 5 grades, nursery to grade 2, after speaking to the parents and getting a consent form and all, so that data showed us that there's no point in making, 2 students or 1 student coming when no one's interested. So that's currently going completely on online mode. Yeah, but grade 5 onwards, it's entirely offline, and exams are also mandatory for them to come and write the exams. And next week, the exams are starting. So it has started still, now it started feeling like, yes, we are connected with the children in a better manner.
So clearly, ma'am, that you are seeing that more than 95% of the students for grade 5 onwards have come back to school. I think all the panelists here probably would agree to the fact that that's a phenomenal number, ma'am, actually. Though you made it mandatory, you said in between that it was mandatory. So there was a push definitely on the parents to actually send their kids. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact, ma'am, that you are saying 95% of the students are back to school, which is
yes. And once they've started sending, they also realized that 5-10% who were still cribbing or trying to push the school to allow it online. So those parents have also now realized that yes, it's always better. The students, the kind of feedback they're getting from the students and the involvement that is there, the way they are engaged in studies. So now they are happy, and they have that conviction that okay, the decision taken by the school was fine and it's going good. So basically, I would say that it's rebirth of education or rebirth of school when the students start coming. For us, it's going to be a leapfrog when the entire school starts coming after 2 years, hopefully from April. In the next session, it's going to be a leapfrog for all of us in this transition.
I completely agree with you. Let me quickly go to Jayashree, ma'am, and check, ma'am, what is the status at SNBP in Pune at your campus?
Not being so lucky, Monica ma'am. What happened with us is I have a huge strength, okay, and majorly in lower classes. And so what I thought is I would possibly take up baby steps. So I just have made it mandatory for students from grade 9 upwards. Their vaccinations were anyways done. So parents had very less reasons to allow. And then of course we have offline exams for those children. And because this came by, the approvals and the permissions came by little after January 15. So what happened is by then we had practically finished our syllabus and our revisions were done, had just started. So parents had to say, just for revision, why you want to get our children come to school and expose them to the risk, because whatever is unknown for them and not sure about the things, what is lurking out, is threatening. So we kind of empathized with that feeling, and we said, fine, maybe we could continue with their online platform for yet another month or so. And then anyways, April, we are going to start the session afresh. So at that time, definitely for certain, we are ready. And meanwhile, we thought of conducting various social engagement programs for the children. So that anyways, that also, sets a tone for, looking forward to coming back to school. So small nuggets of annual concerts, presentations, recitations, poem, the various competitions we are planning. And then we did it only two divisions at a time, so that not much of a crowd is seen at one time, and children also get an experience of being on stage and speaking to people. and thereby, warming up for the upcoming year starts. So that is how we handled it this time.
So, ma'am, in class 9 onwards, wherever you have started asking students to come to school, what is the percentage of students are coming?
There I have, yes, there I have got almost 98%. Yeah, and those 2% is either they are out of town, but then they would be coming back very soon.
Sure. So, ma'am, quickly let me go to Mrudula, ma'am. Ma'am, what's your sense on the ground with respect to DY Patel?
Yeah, so very good afternoon to all the dignitaries present and the audience as well. So at DY Patel, I wish to share with you that what we have done is, just like Jayashree ma'am, we are still following the hybrid mode. So I have students coming to school and I have students who are attending from home as well. But I must say that the response is around 80% for us for the offline school, the offline mode. And right from class 1 to 10, we have begun school offline. But we are also continuing the online mode. So right now, like I said, it is hybrid mode. 1st March onwards, I've already shared a circular saying that the online mode will not be there. One reason is that almost 100% of the syllabus has been accomplished for this academic year. At the same time, I really sadly and unfortunately wish to mention that syllabus is one side of the story. But if you honestly speak about the current scenario, the foundational literacy and numeracy skills have gone down drastically. Reading skills and social interaction also has gone down. For this reason, what we have done is we will continue with something called as remedial classes. And we have already identified certain students who could not attain the minimum levels, MLL, minimum levels of learning. These students will be coming to school beyond the school hours. And one more thing, as of now, we are working in 2 shifts. So we have now concentrated only on the core elements, the core subjects. All right, the other activities are optional. So we've reduced the timings, just 3.5 to 4 hours, but 2 shifts for the offline schoolers. And the rest have the liberty of being online up to 28th of Feb. Yes.
Great, ma'am. So from 1st of March, you are making it mandatory for students to come back to school.
Yes, that's because, like I said, we've almost done with the syllabus. We are almost done with the syllabus, and it will be revision mostly. But students who feel they need help also are welcome.
Sure. So let me go to Kajal ma'am and check with her what's happening in her school, ma'am. Ma'am, what's happening there on the ground? So we have 3 different panelists. They have shared 3 different kind of versions so far in terms of in Pune how the schools are operating, and I think that slowly and steadily all are going in the same direction to invite all the schools back to invite all the students back to school. So, ma'am, what's happening there in your school?
So, yes, good afternoon. So at GEMS at Gayatri, what we have done, we've divided as we too have a very big number over here. So we've divided our students into 2 shifts. So it is functioning from 7:30 to 12:30. That is from grade 8 to 12th. And there is no hybrid mode. It's compulsory for them to come to school because 9th and 10th and then 12th, we have our science practicals and all these they're preparing for their boards. So we have to have that seriousness and they have to come back. Ultimately, that's what we are looking at. We want our students on ground. So we see 85 to 90% of attendance there. And in the second shift, that is from 12:30 to 3:30, it's for only 3 hours. There what we are doing, school is functioning in a hybrid mode where we are we are getting only 50% of students coming in. Our parents are not yet, their minds are not yet set that they should be sending their little children to school. So there we are, yes, we are struggling a bit, but it's so far so good. Our hybrid mode is on there and teachers are teaching to students who are available in the classroom. And as Mrudula ma'am rightly said, that what we have done, instead of having activities on daily basis, as we are not having bigger number there, so we are having bagless days on Saturdays, one attraction for them, so that we get good number at least one day of the week. So we are having all sort of activities, like tomorrow also, like as we are nearing to our science day. So we are holding inter-school competition, science competition, just adding a little flavor of giving them that, yes, we are back on the ground. And it's always for any educator, and we have the principals over here. Our schools are lively. School has got its life only because of the students. Otherwise, it looks very dull, and we too don't feel like working. So yes, we are in the evolved phase of education. We have to prepare for tomorrow. So learning each day, preparing each day. So one task at a time, that's what we are looking at.
Sure, ma'am. So
Over to you, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So let me go to Dr. Anpurna and ask her what has been her experience at the lexicon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, when I heard Monica ma'am, for a moment, I was a little jealous, Monica ma'am. I think hats off to you. Congratulations for that number. It's really amazing. But sir, I would also like to proudly share that from classes 9 to 12, I have 100% results and 100% attendance. Given the fact that we have our pre-boards going on for the children and the assessments for the senior classes, I think that group of children, they've already been vaccinated. Parents are quite confident about sending children back to school. So it's just physical classes for them and assessments going on right now. If I look at classes from pre-primary up to class 8, we have a blended mode, the hybrid model that is going on. And over there, definitely the percent attendance is very, very poor. But I think it's slowly rising. I like what Mridula ma'am shared. There's so much of a lag in terms of what we need to deal with when children are actually going to be back in school full strength. And we do have our step-up classes in place, and a lot of parents have understood, you know, that we need to work on their reading and writing skills, comprehension skills. So there's a lot going on that front. And I am sure slow and steady wins the race. And we will have a big number of students back with us. Yes, I think April should be a month of plenty. Along with the sunny and bright children back with us, because I really feel that the moment the children have come back to school, we are just so blessed. There is so much of noise and activity and everybody running up and down. Otherwise, we used to be in an isolated mode with just the teachers coming in and out. It's really beautiful to have the children back. I think that's the best thing that could have happened. And I am sure we will have many more coming in. I'm really praying for that. And I definitely believe that it will.
I completely agree with you, ma'am. The last 2 years have been really hard hitting for children, largely who were doing online classes, and there was nothing to do. Largely, they can't even go out. Largely, everything was closed. So for them to come out and come to school, meet their friends, meet teachers, meet principals, I think it's a big kind of a relief. But let me quickly turn around this more from a point of view that now, since students have started coming to school for whichever classes, we can think about either 9 to 12, or in Monica ma'am's case, starting from class 5, and in some other schools also, we are seeing students have started to come back. Let me go to Monica ma'am and ask her perspective. Ma'am, what are some of the unique challenges which children will face this year as they head back to school, ma'am? As you know that 2 years were largely online. So what are you envisaging as principal and as educator in terms of challenges they are going to face when they head back to school?
Well, Mr. Vikram, the first thing that I'm sure everyone is going to agree with is the body clock. So earlier they used to, rise at some particular point of time, and then they used to either board the buses or come with the parents to the school. Now, in last 2 years, what has happened is slowly and steadily, they have, made themselves so comfortable that they rise up, they probably are, I mean, they go through their morning schedule or not, I'm not sure, but they sit in front of the laptop to attend the first class. And at times the teachers have also given this feedback that 1 or 2% they are munching, probably they're not following that proper routine of breaks of class, and short breaks or lunch break or munch break. That's not being followed. So one biggest challenge is, yes, they have to come back to that disciplined time and follow it. That is one thing that they're going to face. Secondly, what I would say is their longer duration of attending the school, because even now, whether it's offline or online, the number of school hours are slightly less, from 6 to probably 5, or 5 to 3. If it's online, it's 2.5 or so. Because of that, now they do not have that energy or discipline or mindset to continuously sit throughout 5-6 hours, even though in between we have activity periods. So now when they'll be coming, so again, like in fact, today I got a call from a senior KG parent saying that, ma'am, April you're starting offline school is going to be 6 hours. So don't you think it's too long? So that transition, even from pre-primary to primary or grade 5 to middle school, they are going to face that. That is one aspect. Then secondly, the learning gaps. So what happens is, now when they start coming, initially they were like the kind of writing skills that they developed probably were not at par with what we wanted to, because of the virtual classrooms, because the number of classes also reduced. So writing skills is something that they will be facing a challenge, and they'll be closely monitored by the teachers, first of all. So since they'll be closely monitored, they'll have to write more. And for sure, it is important. LSRW skills are important to be developed. This is one thing. Conceptual understanding, wherever there have been learning gaps, the connectivity, in case it is lost, that will be a challenge, which again will have to bridge the gap. So when they start coming, our teachers are also to be, more patient and slow, and ensure that wherever that gaps are there, they are to be bridged. Because if they are not bridged, then they lose interest, and that would be demotivating for them. So to keep them charged is not just a challenge for the students, but as also for the school, that they keep charged. And they initially, the kind of I saw the interest that they were showing, the higher classes to come to school, that has to be continuous, that has to be perpetual. And that happens when we involve them in a way that whatever topics they found, they did not find very the conceptual understanding was lacking, there we need to work on that. So that is another thing. And the challenge for school, I would say, would be one big challenge would be transport for those schools who do not have their buses. So that is again one issue that all the schools would be facing. And we all need to get disciplined in a way that we need to follow all the time schedules. We need to be more engaging, so that the students are having that mindset of attending 6 hours school.
Sure, ma'am. I think you have outlined it very categorically in terms of routine, in terms of learning gaps, in terms of writing skills per se, the conceptual understanding, and the overall transportation and all that, which needs to be aligned with respect to once a student come back to school. So, ma'am, let me go to Mrudula, ma'am, before I go to Jayashree, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm very sure that some of these points which Monica ma'am is sharing is very relevant for all of us and for schools. What schools are doing particularly to ensure that some of these things are taken care of when children are back to school? From your perspective, with respect to routine, learning gaps, writing skills, and everything to do with ensuring that their transportation, their fooding and all that is taken care of.
So I think that's a very relevant question. What is school doing? So let me begin with academics, because I must tell you that UNESCO, UNICEF, and all other educational NGOs have already put it on paper that the loss is huge. It is so huge, and particularly in India. Why would I say this? Is because we claim that we are the youngest nation of the world, And there are a lot of hopes put on the shoulders of this country and the youngsters of this country, talking about school and higher education as well. So what I feel is the basics are very essential. Like Monica ma'am rightly pointed out, conceptual skills are one side of the story. But what about the writing skills and the reading skills? Nobody has bothered to write, or maybe they've hardly written. I'm not saying they've not written at all, but they've only been typing. And what about those students who are in the junior KG or the senior KG? For them, they feel school means television, or school means mobile, or school means tab. They don't even know that there is an infrastructure called school. So this way, like 2 to 3 aspects. One, I said the reading skills. Second is the numeric skills. Third, like ma'am said, the conceptual skills. And very important, social skills. These have suffered enormously. And so what I feel is all the schools together must consider what is called as filling up the gap. So we need sort of a bridge course. So number one, what I will say is in DY Patel, I am not going to insist on completion of syllabus in the coming year. The coming academic year, more than completing the 10 lessons which are there in the textbook, it is important to see that what are the backlogs. Where are we lacking in? Where are the children lagging behind? Those lacunas have to be filled up first. So because unless the foundation is there, you can't build on it. So like I said, focus will be on revision and remedial teaching. We may have to group students. We may have to work beyond the regular hours, or we may have to contribute on holidays. We will have to do data collection and analysis to find out what is missing. And then accordingly, plans have to be made. So all this is in the pipeline. This is what we are discussing. One more thing, we need good training for teachers. Now we are going to come back. It's not easy. See, when we switched over to the online mode also, it took certain time. No doubt the teachers did well and they did it pretty fast. But coming back from online to offline also is going to be a challenge, because this is again a transition. There are certain pros and cons in offline, and there are certain advantages and disadvantages in online as well, offline, online both. So now coming back also needs practice. It's all about habit. So these are the challenges from both the sides. And definitely one more challenge is transport, because of the given rules limitations. So Monica ma'am rightly pointed out that schools that do not have their own transport system will also have new challenges. But from the school side, I will say that teacher training is already happening. CBSE is doing a very good job. They're giving us free trainings also, and there are in-house trainings. So that is one aspect. Secondly, like I said, we are already working on the bridge course. We've started the brainstorming for that as well. And number 3, we have to take care of transport, which we are already considering. So that's how it is. Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. I think, ma'am, you also covered a lot with respect to what school should be doing or the schools are doing currently. Let me quickly go to Jayashree, ma'am, and ma'am, if you can throw light on what parents can do for this transition to become easy for students and for schools. So what are your advice for parents? And after Jayashree, ma'am, I'll go to Kajal, ma'am, for her insights on what should parent do.
I think parents, irrespective of whether the school has started for their children or not, they should ensure that they frequent the school with the children. Okay, so that to develop familiarity, to develop that kind of awareness. And then we also did as a school, a very interesting exercise we did. We did a tit-a-tat with the teachers. So every teacher called up a child post school hours with a predetermined time, and just had a casual conversation, because as a school, as an organization, I felt this particular segment, my children have suffered the maximum during the pandemic. I think these was one community which complained the least but suffered the most. For them, the learning happens not only from books, it actually, even the walls of the classrooms, the school, the walls, the floor, the roofs teach them so much. And they were the ones who were told not to step out of the house. So it was, I think, it was the major injustice done to this community. So if as a school, if I keep on talking about academics and rigor, I think that may put them off. So I suppose we need to kind of give them a feel that when they are in school, they are going to be excited, happy. And once the happiness quotient is taken care of by the teachers, by the school, by the environment, by the parents, learning will happen. Because according to me, children are the most adaptive creatures on the world. They pick up like that. It's just about telling them that it's okay to fail. I mean, why are we constantly telling them the fears of failure? It's okay. He picked it up faster, you picked it up a little slow, but that's absolutely fine. Why there should be so much of a fear? And why do we start designing curriculum? I mean, this is my, and then extra working hours, a child who is already getting bogged down by extra hours coming to school. If we were to add on to that extra hours further, then that may possibly put off the child from school. In fact, these are the times when we need to be super sensitive and ensure that we retain that happiness quotient and joy of coming back to school. So other things, if you ask me, can get taken care of if the happiness quotient is retained and we have every child smilingly enter the school and smilingly move out and say it's absolutely fine to fail because I know I have some more time, I have some more years to pick up. It's absolutely fine. I know there is a lot of worry outside, but I think we can, that worrisome characteristics can be handled by adults without reaching out to children.
Sure, ma'am. So Kajal ma'am, what's your advice to parents?
So yes, I resonate with what Jayashree ma'am just said. I truly connect with her thoughts. So time for all the parents, and I'm speaking, I'm conveying this from being a parent as well. I'm a mother of 2, and time for all of us to correct our ABCDE. That is, A stands for adaptive. Like as ma'am rightly said, like students are the most adaptive species, but it's time for our parents also to adapt the changes with the same zeal, right? And then B stands for being positive, and C stands for being compassionate of what children are doing in the school, and D stands for deleting the fear. Yes, there's a lot of fear still in the parents' mind, as we have already heard from many of the principals, that in lower grades we are still suffering, that children are still not coming back. And we have seen parents have gone to their hometown. What they are doing, they are not taking admission for the nursery, especially for the pre-primary section, and they're skipping the years. That should not happen. So they have to delete that fear, because ultimately child is going to get its balanced overall personality is going to develop in the school. And in school we always strive hard to prepare the environment where the teacher in the classroom becomes the mother, and the mother at home becomes the teacher. So it's a two-way process, isn't it? And then E stands for enthusiastically inviting the child at home and at school. So it should, we have to create that balance. As we have seen, there is lot of imbalance in the development and growth of the child, where we have seen some students who are excellent in technology have grown immensely, where students who are hesitant, who are not very outgoing, who are not very techy, their growth is somewhere it's still stagnant. So once they are back in the school, we all are going to have a tough time, but we have to complete this 360-degree cycle, where we have a complete a great rapport with the parents and the school. So this is what I believe, that parents must and should trust the school, and schools are you can say successful, and schools existence is only because of the students. So everything starts from that dot, we are here to link the dots.
Clearly, ma'am, both your and Jayashree ma'am's advice is to send your kids to schools, and schools will take care of the students. Don't worry too much about it. And in some ways, Kajal ma'am, I feel that you were reading my mind with respect to my next question. That since Pune is an IT hub, and as we know that we have this back to school kind of campaign which is going on, but back to work is something still many IT companies is saying that you can work from remote locations and you can work from your home and all that. And nothing against them actually. But I'm coming more from a point of view that as a parent, I'm working in an IT company and where the company is offering me work from home and my child needs to go to school. Currently, the child is studying online. So Jayashree ma'am, what is your suggestion to those parents who are not in Pune, but they'll have to come back to Pune only because probably the schools have started?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very pertinent question, because considering the online becoming the big time clash of learning, I feel a parent needs to know that for a primary child, for a child studying in a primary school, or for that matter in a secondary school, online is no match to offline. It's a compromise. We all compromised with the platform primarily to ensure that learning did not stop. But that can definitely not be a replacement to an offline. Having said that, I do have quite a few parents who are not in town and may want to continue. So I definitely give them that leverage, because whatever was managed for 2 years, I can offer it for 2 more months or 5 more months if required. So I would not have a live streaming of a class for certain, because I feel live streaming is more of a tick on the box. It is not something like it's an online class, right? So because I don't expect the learner on the other side to take ownership of his learning. An 8-year-old, a 10-year-old is not going to take the ownership of learning. That kind of a live streaming is possibly good for a postgrad student who is just wanting to pursue his further studies, and he's taking ownership of his learning. He's going to put some questions on the chat box, which possibly could be responded later by the mentor. But that doesn't happen in schools. So I feel I would possibly give them an exclusive online platform for maybe 2-3 more months, so as to ensure that they have enough time to come back and settle. So, I mean, that being, I'm trying to be a little more empathetic towards a parent who has migrated and possibly has also given off his house. Here is possibly required to look for a new house, settle all over again. So I need to give him that time and that space. So, I mean, this is what I have thought.
Sure, ma'am. So clearly you are saying that you will give some more time to those parents who are not in Pune currently and have been doing online classes for their children.
Yes, and adding on to this, right, I think when we are declaring it as an endemic, there are also going to be some remnants of the fear factor or the reservation factor about the infection. So a child with a cold and cough or fever, slight fever, who was possibly okay to have in the school 3 years back, is not going to be okay to have in the school now. So I may also discourage such children from coming to school and tell them that, hello, you could still attend an online class for those 3-4 days which you miss out, so that learning doesn't stop for that child. And like I said, I have that option because I have a huge strength. So maybe 1 or 2 divisions, I could dedicate it totally for an online platform.
Sure. So ma'am, clearly from your perspective and your school's perspective, you are saying that you can segregate a online session if required for
yes,
such.
I could actually have an exclusive set of teachers who handle online and offline. So, you know, there is no compromise in terms of quality or delivery.
I feel, ma'am, and pardon me if I'm not correct here, at least from a Jayashree ma'am, your perspective, and I'm generalizing it, so don't please take it into account if it's not relevant for you. But I'll go to Annapurna ma'am and Monica ma'am first with Annapurna ma'am, but I'm linking that piece. See, hybrid mode actually puts a lot of pressure on teachers. because they'll have to teach online and offline at the same time. And in my assumption here, I have assumed that the same teacher is teaching the online cohort as well as the offline cohort, the same subjects. What are we doing for those teachers? Because, and this is an elaborate question, I need to plug some of the facts here, that when we went from offline to online, instantaneously there is a huge burden on the teacher, which they actually took on and converted the entire syllabus and all that from an offline to an online mode and started teaching. So they have taken that pain couple of years ago. Now things are moving in right direction, touch wood. The pandemic is now at the endemic stage, hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed. And this hybrid piece as well as offline piece, so it's again putting a pressure on teachers. So what is your sense, Dr. Annapurna and then Monica ma'am, your in terms of how to support those teachers who have done a wonderful job at the starting of the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now to some extent, if I have to assume this is the end of pandemic, they are again going through a lot. Dr. Annapurna ma'am, you can start with your
Yes, sir. So there is this really beautiful saying, and I quote Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, that all birds find shelters during the rain, and only the eagle flies above the clouds to avoid the rains. And I think our educators have been like these eagles, really flying high above. And at this point in time, I'm really transported back to March 2020, where we started with our online classes. And what you said about converting all the physical content into online content, my God, what an amazing job they did. It took us about 2 months, but those 2 months of rigorous activity, I don't think we had a single day or night's gap, because we were working really fast. We started with our first class on the 22nd of March 2020. So that's how fast my teachers adopted. And we had this 5-day training program for them, where every day you were like, okay, utho. I mean, you're up, you're taking the training for the Zoom. And at that point in time, there was only Zoom that was working for us. And it was marathon sessions of training, of making content, of ensuring that we have all the credentials ready. We should be having it and mooting and actually sharing it with the students. So luckily for us, since we have a platform for the school, so we were really very, very lucky at that point in time, because sharing content became very easy for us. But then content had to be made. So teachers were trained, and I think that training of the teachers, that is a very essential aspect. Because if you, I mean, how much ever you may want to do, if you've not been trained in the right manner, then it becomes very difficult to actually execute your plan. So there was wonderful training that happened at the beginning. There was training that was mooted out. We have an internal team of auditors with us who have helped us. We have the team of supervisors who were working. So that was the initial, peak of COVID where we were. And then slowly everybody graduated into this mode. And during the online period, I think what teachers needed most was some kind of a mental, counseling. And we did have these, just heart-to-heart conversations where you had the supervisors actually connecting to them. Because as much as our children were suffering, I think the teachers were just along with them, and more so because in order to be able to teach tomorrow, I have to do a lot of homework today. And being a teacher, I think it holds very good when you're very well prepared for the class. So their kind of homeworking was tremendous. So there comes that piece on mental health. And then you have this about physical health as well. So the theme that our director started off for the year is health, fitness, and happiness. And I think all these three factors are very, very important, because if you're physically healthy, your mental health automatically improves. And if you're physically and mentally fit, automatically you're happy. And a happy teacher means a happy classroom. So this is how, that gradual transformation of, from that peak of COVID to coming down to normalcy during the second wave, and then now coming back into the physical mode. Now, the physical mode with that hybrid teaching has definitely been very challenging. And, you put yourself into their shoes, you just cannot. It's a massive burden that they are carrying. But I'm sure slowly and steadily, because when the children came back to school, we did this little survey of, going across and asking, okay, what excites you? Why would you like to come back to school? And there were some who said, we want to learn better. It's better when we come in and read and learn. And there were some others who said, we've come in to meet our teachers. Okay, so that's the smallies, and I love them for it. And there were those really honest ones who said, we've come to meet our friends. And that shows that, children are really, school is not just a place where you learn. Yes, education does open, it's a key to the world. But for children, I think education is the key to freedom. Freedom to be at school, freedom to be happy, to chill out with friends, unwind, learn well, but be happy. And as ma'am said, that happiness quotient, that enthusiasm, that's what brings about the change. And I think we as teachers, we too are the kind who actually imbibe. So when you see a happy face, you become doubly happy and you give back. So there's so much that is happening now in the front with children coming back to school. Everybody is looking forward to, 100% attendance starting from April. And yes, the teachers too are gearing up for that. So that's how we work here at Lexicon, sir.
Sure. Monica ma'am, you have clearly made it a mandate that 5 onwards children has to come to school. So for your case, largely in your school, the teachers who are teaching from 5 till 12, they don't have to actually teach in the hybrid mode. They are in the physical classroom. But what about the children from pre-nursery, nursery till class 4? I'm sure they are studying in a hybrid mode, and probably very soon you will make it mandatory for them also. But what about the teachers? How you are supporting teachers to make this transition where they have to teach in a hybrid mode?
Well, when we say whether it's students or teachers, we are used to, guide them by saying work hard. We tell our students, we tell the teachers, but instead we should tell them work joyfully. So always think about the positive aspects, right? So in a way, when you said about online mode, pre-primary still entirely online. Grade 1 and 2 also parents requested, so we are going with online. 3 and 4 is hybrid, grades 3 and 4. And before that, anyways, it was all online. But whether online or hybrid, to keep the teachers motivated so that, from top to bottom, it comes down to the students also. Only then they will be motivated. So there's a lot that you need to have a strong connect with the teachers. As I said, instead of telling them, as Annapurna ma'am rightly said, that when we started with the pandemic and the teachers were struggling and we all were working hard. So having a good connect with the teachers and giving them, showing them the path to work joyfully instead of working hard does help, because that brings all the anxieties down. Giving them support by, giving them a kind of flexibility in a way that the children do not suffer, the academics do not suffer, showing them some positive aspect that now you are learning. Since you are teaching virtually, there were teachers who said that, ma'am, I'm going to quit because I'm not very confident teaching on virtual platform. And then making that teacher continue by continuous support, emotional and that kind of support, providing that support and encouraging, that did help. And all the teachers are there and very well equipped, more skilled than me, I would say, when they share the screen and they use different softwares and they try to explore. When we tell them, when we motivate them, that find ways where you can engage the children in a better way on virtual platform. So by that motivation, in fact, they have learned better. They have started using different softwares to teach, whether it's GeoGebra, whether it's Jamboard, different softwares. So showing them that flame or that light, I would say that, okay, before teaching the children, you yourself are learning, you're upgrading yourself. And this is the demand of the day. This is something we all require. And in fact, as you said, that there are certain parents who are still working from home, and they were struggling struggling with how to teach their children. I would say that the schools who have taken that caretaking role of supporting the children, whether virtually or offline, their reputation have skyrocketed. So the parents have realized even more how important schools are, how important teachers are. And teachers are now stronger because they're teaching on the other side of the system, and where they see that parents are sitting with the students and they're there initially to judge them. But with their efforts, with their continuous counseling, with the support and the motivation, they've become so strong that now they say that, ma'am, we can actually conduct a session for the parents also. So they feel so good about it. So that is one thing I would feel that we all have learned from pandemic. That's the brighter side, or to say every cloud has a silver lining. And that's how the pillars of the school, I would say, the teachers have involved. And for sure, we have to mentor the teachers. We have to be a mentor to them, to handhold them when it's difficult times for them, scaffold them, find solutions for them whenever they come to us with problem, with issues. So that way we need to keep them connected and be as a family, I would say. So one family is at home and one family is in school. So that way how we have progressed.
Sure. So that brings me to another perspective from a parent side, that many parents actually did not take the admission for their child in the nursery in any formal school for the coming session, which is starting from April 2022. So Mrudula ma'am, I'll quickly come to you. What should they do now? They can apply to schools, or they can actually wait a while and then apply. What is your suggestion to them?
Yes, sir. So, like I said, school, I think Annapurna ma'am also pointed out just now, school is not only about books. It is not about syllabus and curriculum. School is far, far beyond that. It's very much like the Gurukuls of the earlier times, at least here in India. Because school doesn't only mean the cognitive development or the intellectual development. It is about ethics. It is about art. It is about culture. It is about physical development. It is about aesthetic development. And so I feel nothing and no one can replace a school. The home environment is completely different. Unfortunately, like Jayashree ma'am said, this particular batch, people call it as the COVID batch or whatever, which I don't advise psychologically. But this batch has suffered. It's not their fault. Now, the role will be played by two stakeholders mainly, besides others. So who are these? One is, of course, the school again, and the other is the parents or the family. So fortunately, if the family is the joint family where there are options, one parent or grandparent is there to guide the child, then that is fine. But other than that, I think the responsibility will lie on the school. I would repeat the same thing, that the school has to take care of bridging the gaps. Number one. Second, we do talk about age appropriate admissions as per RTE and as per NEP. But parents should not feel embarrassed or lost if a child has to repeat a class. If at all a child has to repeat a class to fill up the gap, there's nothing wrong in it. Because like I said, it's very important to have a strong foundation. Once the child loses interest, suppose there is no foundation, the basic concepts have not been understood, the basic skills are not there, and the child goes ahead to the next class. More than often, the next teacher will never teach the earlier concepts due to shortage of time. She teaches what is expected of her in that particular class for that age group. Whereas the child loses interest because he doesn't follow what is going on. And this continues. If we have to stop this somewhere, then the parents also have a bigger role to play. Like I said, if they are well equipped, if they have the resources to do this at home, well and good. If not, they have to request the school. And lastly, repeating a year also could be an option that could be considered.
Sure, ma'am. So clearly you are saying that they should admit the child in an age appropriate class. And if for that matter, if they have to repeat the class because of the online environment, or because of they did not put the child in during the COVID, they should not shy away from doing that. So Kajal ma'am, what's your take on that? What is your advice to parents who have not done admission for their children in nursery or in any other class, and not even in a play school? So they will come directly to a formal school.
So in this, my advice is still we have 2 more months. If they are fit for nursery or junior KG, they can seriously think of bridging the gap. They can prepare and prepare their own resources, and wherever they are looking out for admission, they can definitely take help from school, and they can complete at least 2 months will make a lot of difference in child's life. And they can actually, and child pick, till grade, we always say like first 5 years are very crucial. They pick up concepts very quickly. So they can have one-on-one tutors, and at least the basic numeracy and literacy skills can be looked into it for nursery or a LKG child, where they can themselves, if they are educated enough, they can pick up the books from the school. And I'm very sure when they will speak to the higher authority, to the principal or the head of the department, I am very sure school is the one who will always help the child. And they can, wisely, they can decide. And from April, all CBSE schools will be having the new academic session. They can start, and it's not wise at all skipping the year, because ultimately everything, like if they really want their child to grow emotionally, academically, socially, and even if they want to develop all the various skills, and more important is developing social skills, otherwise they will not be fit to equip themselves into a group of students. So that's very important. That's my take on this point.
Sure. So many parents or many students had to drop out in between the pandemic and all, where parents moved from one city to another. And many parents actually did not enroll their child in the pre-primary formal schools in the last 2 years. So there is clearly a learning gap here. But from an admission point of view, if I have to look at Pune as the city, what is your suggestions? Largely, I'm going to go to each one of you. I know we are almost at the time, but this is a very important question for parents, that if they have to enroll back their students either in nursery or in any other class as a lateral admission, do we have seats? And I'll go directly to Monica ma'am first and ask ma'am, do we have seats to get students enrolled in the classes in your school?
Well, currently admissions are, yes, full in all the grades. So that is, that's not possible because, and of course, the infrastructure and all does matter. So we should not go beyond a particular strength, because then we are not probably solving the purpose or working with the objective which we are here for. So going beyond a certain strength, for sure, it is not possible at all. So that is one aspect or one constraint, I would say, because the admissions are full here for all the grades.
Sure. What about Jayashree ma'am at SNBP? Can lateral admissions can happen in your school?
Yeah, I think admissions could happen in different grades as per the availability of seats. And in case it is not, I could definitely call up any schools in the neighborhood and request them to accommodate the child. So ensuring that the child's learning doesn't stop. I think we operate as a community. So I think that works very well. In case we don't have seats, we definitely try to check each other's school's availability and accommodate the child.
So I'm assuming that's true for all the other schools as well. I'm not going to go deeper into that question. That brings me to the last question before I open up for audience. I know we have overshot on our time, but I think this discussion is really good, and I would need 5-7 more minutes from each of the panelists. So my apologies for extending beyond our timeline. So last question is, there are many parents actually still thinking that it's okay if we don't have to admit our child in nursery, and we'll think about this 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, what is to be done. So what is the suggestion to those parents who are very, very pertinent in thinking about from that point of view कि ठीक है यार nursery में नहीं करेंगे, आगे देख लेंगे. And pardon my Hindi here, but I have come across many parents who have shared this feeling with me. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and when I enrolled her, the pandemic was at the full rage, and she did her online schooling in nursery and KG. And since last week, she's going to school and she's very, very happy. So my question to all of you, all the educators,
Sir?
if a parent is thinking that nursery mein nahi karate hain, it's okay, we'll do it later. What is your suggestion there?
May I begin? May I begin, sir?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure,
yeah, so I'll just take half a minute. I just wish to say, you go to a doctor when you're not well, and the doctor gives you medicines. And then he says that this dose is for the morning, and this one is for the afternoon, and this is for the evening. And then he spreads it over 3 days. So can you say that morning I'm too lazy and I will not get up and I'll have my 2 or 3 doses in the evening? Will it work like this? Number one. Two, you skip one and you have 2 at a time, or you skip the 3 days and you have all at a time. Does this work? It never works. Let's talk about meals. Can you say I will not have breakfast and I will not have lunch and I'll have all the 3 meals in the evening? Does it work? It never works. So please understand, just like this, syllabus also is graded. It is graded. There is a reason. A child could have completed the board exam directly. Why waste 9 earlier years? Because it is graded syllabus, because they are building blocks. And especially when you focused on nursery and the preschool, please understand that history has proved it, psychologists have proved it, researchers and educationists have said, these are the formative years. Formative years. See, the child's cells are increasing in number per minute, per day. So this is the right time to pick up, to grasp and learn, and you can never skip on this. So rightly, every child should go to school, especially in the current scenario when it is pretty safe now. Now, nobody should think that my child will stay at home unless there is an extraordinary reason for it. This is my suggestion and advice. Thank you so much.
I would second ma'am's thoughts. And as Mr. Vikram, you said that regarding nursery, they want to skip nursery considering that it is not very essential. Well, that is one very crucial phase wherein they learn their, fine motor skills and their gross motor skills and the foundational literacy and numeracy. So that's the foundation. So it's very critical and important. The milestones that the children achieve is that the initial milestones, that's during the 3 to 4 years of age. So parents who have already skipped, I mean, the ones who are yet to take admission, I would say, yes, they should take admission in nursery. But those who have already skipped, what I can suggest is the pre-primary curriculum that is divided into 3 years. If the school can support, because in our school, we did that way, especially for students who were coming from US and they didn't have Hindi at all. So we divided their, curriculum that way. So likewise, to check their learning levels, their achievement levels, a grade 3 child who has skipped nursery should not go directly to junior KG. If the school can support, they should take admission to nursery. And with one-on-one monitoring, what we can do is that since now anyways the child is 4 years, so his learning capacity would be higher than that of 3 years old child. So probably instead of 1 year nursery, the child can complete the required skill. The child can acquire the essential skills in 6 months of time with some extra support at home and in the school. And then slowly, gradually, that transition should happen and the child should start going ahead with junior KG syllabus. So this way, initially, if we send the child to junior KG without going for nursery, the child will see other students probably better than him in understanding and doing activities, and the child will not do. So we may agree with this or not, but what happens is that the child gets demotivated, and the child somewhere inside, even the child is 4 years old, the self-esteem also goes down. So we should ensure that the child initially sits with nursery children, acquires those skills, probably if not in 1 year, in 6 months, the school can support and slowly graduate to junior KG and pick up from there. So that way, the child will not miss out on any essential aspect that has been taught in nursery. Basically, these are just graduations, nursery, we just call them nursery, junior, senior, but the curriculum, entire curriculum, when it has to be taught, it has to be stepwise. Those steps that we take, we complete them in 2 years by some extra efforts, or we complete in 3 years. It is for us to decide, but we cannot directly jump on the 5th step and start moving up. That will make the child fall down. So I think nursery is very essential, and those who have missed should start like this, seek support from school, and not think of skipping a year and taking it casually.
Sure. I think that's really helpful, and I'm mindful of time. I'm going to take a question from audience. There's a question from Mr. Preetham. He says that we are in USA and looking out for admission for my daughter in 8th grade, and the academic year ends in June. So do we need to complete the academic year here and join by June, or do we need to come back by April 2022? So Jayashree ma'am and Annapurna ma'am, you can take this question, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Preetham, appreciate your question here. As a school, a sensitive school, we would love to have your child join us, even if it is in the middle of the year, because we would want the child to complete that academic year, finish the assessment there, and then move on. Of course, thereby, the child may lose out on 2-3 months of the initial transition, but I'm sure the child shall be able to pick up. But at the same time, you need to ensure it's a teenager, so the child has to be mentally prepared for this transition. And as long as the child is happy about this transition, I'm sure there should be no issue about moving on to Pune, any Pune school that you can think of. Yeah.
Ma'am, the question really is that they need to apply by April, or they can come and apply by June?
Preferably they should apply before, so as to secure the admission in the school that they fancy, because admissions may not be there in the month of June and July when they actually come. So it's better to secure admission prior.
Sure. I think Annapurna ma'am, you will agree to the fact.
Yes, entirely. Yeah. It's very necessary to secure admissions, complete the session, and definitely when the child comes to India, we have these bridge sessions for the students who come in and join us late. So it's definitely possible for the child to cope up with what he or she has lost.
Sure. Thank you. So last question is, and actually I can take this question from Sunaina. Are admissions open for parents from outside Pune? It has not been easy to get details on website. Can you guide? So you can go on uniapply.com. You will find all the information related to admissions there, and actually apply to schools of your choice of Pune. Happy to support there. My team can actually guide you as well, and separately will connect with you. So that brings me to the end of this discussion. I'm really thankful to all the panelists who have joined and spent last 1.5 hours on this panel and shared their views, particularly on back to school and the admission process related to Pune schools. Thank you so much, all the educators, for joining on this webinar, and appreciate your time and patience in handling my questions. Thank you so much. Take care, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vikram. It was a pleasure. And it was like we principals getting connected and understanding each other's perspective was also very enlightening. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So many takeaways from real stalwarts, more of a learning than an interaction. I love that. Thank you so much for this, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take care, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.